Latest numbers bring optimism to the nation. Australia records just 13 new cases of COVID-19. An end to empty shelves, panic buying eases and supermarkets lift product limits.
And coming up on The Business, Australia's second airline on the brink of collapse. We have the latest on Virgin Australia.
This is ABC Late News. Hello, I'm Michael Tetlow. Virgin Australia is set to go into voluntary administration this week, making it the biggest airline collapse in Australian history. For weeks, Virgin's been lobbying the government for a $1.4 billion loan to help it survive the coronavirus crisis.
An emotional plea to save Australia's second biggest airline.
It's my and everyone else's livelihood.
Tony Smith has been with the company for more than a decade, signing on in the Virgin Blue days. His long service record is beaten by his colleague, Marcella Peritano, who's racked up 17 years.
I just pray that the government help us.
But their careers, like Australia's aviation industry, are in turmoil. Virgin had massive debts and was already running out of money when the coronavirus pandemic forced it to almost completely shut down its business. The federal government has flown around the airline's request for a $1.4 billion rescue loan or financial stake.
That is not a great deal to ask for when you've got 16,000 jobs on the line, the future of our tourism industry.
I heard Qantas some years ago telling us that unless the government were to bail them out, they would have all sorts of consequences. Well, Qantas got themselves out of it.
The ABC understands the federal government views voluntary administration as an opportunity to restructure the company and make a fresh start with a new owner. And it's not inclined to offer a bailout because Virgin is not the national carrier and has a complicated foreign ownership structure. Virgin is in a trading halt until Wednesday. It's understood the board will meet tonight to discuss the airline's future, and it may be placed into voluntary administration this week. The development comes on the same day a row broke out between Queensland and New South Wales over Virgin. Queensland has offered Virgin a $200 million lifeline, but New South Wales has revealed it's also considering financial support for the carrier.
New South Wales might want to bring a pea shooter to the fight, that's fine. We'll bring a bazooka and we're not afraid to use it.
The New South Wales deal is conditional on Virgin's headquarters shifting from Brisbane to Sydney.
I think this is more about propping up the Western Sydney Airport than it is about the genuine interests of Virgin workers.
Workers who are desperate for a secure future. James Hancock, ABC News.
The low number of new coronavirus cases is giving everyone real hope Australia's winning the battle. Around the country, there have been 13 new cases today and one death at a nursing home in New South Wales. 4 states had no new cases. There were 6 in New South Wales, 5 in Tasmania and 1 each in Victoria and the ACT. As Casey Briggs explains, it isn't just the lack of new infections. Other key indicators are heading in the right direction too.
We've seen a remarkable drop in the number of coronavirus cases around the country today, the kinds of numbers we haven't seen since early March. And there's also good news on the testing front. As the infection rate's gone down, testing rates are actually higher than where they were last week. The number of people with serious cases is also decreasing. As of this afternoon, there were 170 people with serious COVID-19 cases being treated in hospital. Small numbers of cases makes contact tracing a much easier job. And the Australian government's basing its contact tracing app on that of Singapore, a country that had won early praise early on for its approach in managing this outbreak. But in the recent weeks, Singapore's developed a problem. Just today, almost 1,500 new coronavirus cases confirmed, largely driven by spread through dormitories and foreign workers living in cramped quarters. Around the world, we're still seeing more than 5,000 people dying every day. The death toll now stands at 165,000.
Casey Briggs reporting. Thousands of patients needing elective surgery, cancer screening or IVF treatment have been left in limbo for the past month. All non-urgent operations were cancelled in March, but there's a good chance they could resume within the week.
Penny Hamilton-Smith has osteoarthritis and is looking forward to getting a hip replacement.
As the days go on, of course, the pain increases. It doesn't get better, it gets worse.
All but the most urgent surgery has been on hold for the past month. IVF and breast cancer screenings have also been suspended. But patient advocacy groups believe it's time to start easing the restrictions.
There's a lot of vacant beds in private hospitals at present. There's a lot of surgeons that are idle, and there's a backlog of patients sometimes in severe pain.
The AMA is urging caution and says the ban should only be lifted when the time is right.
The time is definitely not right now.
The government says pressure on hospitals has been less severe than predicted.
So I am hopeful that during the course of this week, the medical expert panel and the National Cabinet will be in a position to make decisions and to give guidance for the future.
He says there are now sufficient supplies of protective kit to consider resuming elective surgery, but those on the ground disagree.
The distribution and supply of personal protective equipment, which at this stage still remains quite stretched in many areas, with patchy supplies all around the system.
The AMA says rather than a blanket lifting of restrictions, it might be wiser to allow elective surgeries to restart in some regions before others. And he says less risky operations like joint replacements could be prioritised ahead of more complex procedures. Scott Gibbons is a surf lifesaver at Bondi Beach. He needs surgery on a ligament in his right thumb that was torn during a rescue.
I don't want to put myself forward unnecessarily, but at the same time, I don't want to have to wait multiple months for the sake of being overly cautious.
It now looks as if he won't have to wait much longer. Alison Shao, ABC News.
After being stripped by panic buyers, supermarket shelves are beginning to look closer to normal. The major supermarket chains have lifted restrictions on some products, but it could be weeks before the aisles are once again flush with toilet rolls.
In supermarkets around the country, it's still a daily battle.
Usually somebody goes around and says, there's paper on the shelf, so you'll go, everybody goes running off for it, and by the time I get there, it's gone.
Obviously toilet paper. It's crazy, I don't know why. Flour, pasta, anything. You just cruise down the aisles and stuff, and then you find that, there's never any stock of those things.
Manufacturers are working overtime and supermarkets are working around the clock to roll out supplies to shelves.
I've noticed today there seems to be a lot more stock on the shelf. When I shopped last week, there was a lot of empty cartons.
The flow of toilet paper off shelves is slowing. Woolworths sold 20 million rolls 3 weeks ago, 15 million a fortnight ago, and 11.5 million last week. One Adelaide supermarket chain sent a clear message to a hoarder who tried to sell back hundreds of rolls, along with bottles of sanitizer.
We're starting to see the shelves better and better every day, and I believe it'll be, if we take the toilet paper, because that's the worst department at the moment, I think about 6 weeks before we start to see toilet paper be staying on the shelf.
Signs are better for other products. Last week, Woolworths removed its limits on canned vegetables, serviettes and most baby products, while Coles removed restrictions on milk, meat, tissues and nappies.
The recovery is determinant on the product, so there are definitely lines that we are at full recovery now. So long life milk, mince, we've definitely seen really strong recovery levels there.
Meaning the days of the super shop could soon be over. Brittany Evans, ABC News, Adelaide.
The Australian government hasn't run national pandemic exercises for over a decade. The drills are designed to test capacity to respond to a viral outbreak. Pandemic planners say dropping them may have affected the country's preparedness. Dylan Wilch from ABC Investigations reports.
You'll be asked to carefully wash your hands using the solution provided.
This might look like footage captured today, but it's from 2006. This was a national drill designed to test Australia's response to a viral pandemic. Another exercise was held 2 years later. None have been held since.
Unfortunately, what we've seen happen since 2008 has been a series of events which have contributed to those pandemic plans going on the back burner.
Well, I do still plan to go to the football on Saturdays.
The pandemic planners told ABC News that early communications failures, such as those remarks by the Prime Minister and the Ruby Princess debacle, could have been avoided had exercises continued.
The fact that there was an element of confusion as to who may have had responsibility for making the final decision, I think sort of points to the lack of preparedness.
Rex Patrick is a member of the Senate committee looking at Australia's COVID-19 response. He says the absence of exercises should be investigated.
We need to understand whether or not proper priority was given to these exercises.
The government defended its preparedness, pointing to Australia's relatively small number of COVID-19 infections and deaths.
I think that preparation that we've done over the last 20 years, including recently, has been very important in our way of being able to cope with this very difficult and, in many ways, unprecedented situation.
He says the government's response has been well planned. Dylan Welch, ABC News.
Facebook and Google will soon have to pay for news content sourced from Australian media companies. The competition watchdog will design a mandatory code of conduct to counter the way tech giants generate massive amounts of advertising revenue from journalism generated by others. Political editor Andrew Probyn explains.
For more than a century, the Barrier Daily Truth's been Broken Hill's chronicler.
It's been a battle to keep your head above water.
With advertisers increasingly going online, it's been harder to make a profit printing news.
A lot of people tend to just want to advertise for nothing.
Then coronavirus hit, restrictions shutting down local businesses.
First thing they did was pull their advertising, which was our lifeblood.
As a result, the print runs now weekly, with staff to be paid under the government's JobKeeper program.
We all just want to see the paper survive and want to see our jobs survive.
Journalism isn't cheap, but stopping news being cannibalised by online behemoths is now the hot scoop.
It's time the tech titans were held to account.
A mandatory code of conduct's coming to force the likes of Google and Facebook to pay for news content they pilfer from Australian media outlets.
We believe this is a battle worth fighting.
It's a welcome step. It will address some of the issues in digital disruption.
But enforcing it will be hard. No other countries managed to do it. So many of us show blind trust in Facebook and Google, surrendering valuable personal information to multi-billion-dollar foreign companies. Contrast that with the instinctive resistance some are showing for a government-sponsored coronavirus tracing app designed to help health authorities track down people who've come in contact with a COVID-19 case.
We think that Australians will come with us on this. They will see the inherent value in having a mechanism that helps those disease detectives do their work.
And of course, when the pandemic's done, you just delete the app and all the data disappears.
The greater the take-up, the sooner, we're told, that'll happen. Andrew Probyn, ABC News, Canberra.
A gunman dressed as a policeman has killed at least 16 people during a 12-hour rampage across the Canadian province of Nova Scotia. The 51-year-old disguised his car to look like a police vehicle, then shot people, including an officer, in several locations. He was eventually cornered at a petrol station and shot dead. His motive is unknown.
My hearts go out to everyone affected in what is a terrible situation. I want to thank the police for their hard work and people for cooperating with authorities.
The shooting is being described as Canada's worst act of mass murder in 30 years. New Zealand will wait another week before beginning to relax its coronavirus lockdown rules. From next Tuesday, the country will move from alert level 4 to 3, which allows more economic activity. As a result, 400,000 people are expected to return to work in areas like construction and forestry. The Prime Minister says while Anzac Day services will be missed this year, people can still mark the day while they're in lockdown.
It was a very, very different battle than the one we are in now. But the character of who we are as a country remains exactly the same. So please, stay strong, stay home, be kind, and let's finish what we started.
Just over 1,400 COVID-19 cases have been recorded in New Zealand, resulting in 12 deaths. Mostly sunny and 28 degrees for Brisbane tomorrow. Sunny as well in Sydney and Canberra. Melbourne sunny and 20 degrees, partly cloudy for Hobart. Partly cloudy and 24 degrees in Adelaide. Sunny and 34 for Darwin. And that's ABC Late News for this Monday. I'm Michael Tetlow. Stay with us for the business.